Kyriakos Mitsotakis claims a strong mandate for reform after winning an absolute majority in Greece's general election.
Concern for Ukraine after the Wagner mercenary group chief goes to Belarus after retreating from a revolt on Moscow on Saturday.
French chemical giant Arcema is accused of polluting the environment with toxic waste for decades.
During the last 10 years, more people are taking drugs globally than originally estimated, according to a UN report.
Kyriakos Mitsotakis has promised to accelerate his programme of economic reform in Greece after his ruling New Democracy Party won an absolute majority in Sunday's general election. Mitsotakis told supporters in Athens that he'd been given a strong mandate to speed up the reforms the country needed, saying a traumatic cycle of lies and toxicity had been broken. New Democracy got just over 40% of the vote, giving it 158 seats in the 300-seat parliament. A downbeat Alexis Tsipras admitted his opposition Syriza party had suffered a serious electoral defeat after obtaining just 47 seats in the new parliament. The former Prime Minister's future as party leader is now in doubt, but he told his supporters that it was above all a bad day for Greek democracy. These New Democracy Party supporters danced in the streets of Athens but it was equally a good night for the newly created far-right Spartan Party, which entered Parliament with 13 seats. It has the backing of leaders from the now banned neo-fascist group Golden Dawn.
There's concern for Ukraine after a deal was reached to send the Wagner mercenary forces chief to neighbouring Belarus. It's after Yevgeny Prigozhin marched on Moscow on Saturday, vowing to topple Russia's defence leaders. The group appeared to take control of Russia's military headquarters at the southern city of Rostov-on-Don on Saturday.
The fact that he's gone to Belarus is, I think, a matter of some concern now, because if he has gone to Belarus and has kept an effective fighting force around him, then he presents a threat again to the Ukrainian flank closest to Kyiv, which is where all this began on the 24th of February last year.
The Wagner mercenary fighters left Rostov on Saturday night with cheers. Some analysts say even though the deal ended the immediate crisis, it may have set in motion a longer-term one. Despite Prigozhin losing, it's thought that Russian President Vladimir Putin may actually be the long-term loser. One person has died and 7 are injured after a roller coaster derailed in Sweden on Sunday. Park officials say that riders, including children, fell to the ground when one of the carriages on the Jet Line ride came off its track. The amusement park in Stockholm was evacuated to help facilitate the work of rescue crews. Passengers also had to be rescued when they were stuck in the other carriages.
In Pierre-Bénite, just south of Lyon, a plant belonging to French chemical giant Arcema has become the focus of accusations. A journalistic investigation has claimed that for decades it's been releasing tons of PFAs, or so-called forever chemicals, into the environment.
Tous les jours, j'ai des parents qui viennent me voir et qui me disent voilà, voilà ce qui se passe dans ma famille. On est parti de Pierre-Bénite quand notre enfant est mort. Il avait 9 ans. Il est mort d'un cancer des testicules. Est-ce que ça peut avoir quelque chose avec le... Peut-être. Peut-être parce que c'est bien un cancer qui est donné par les PFAS.
A local media investigation has revealed alarming levels of blood contamination in the local population. Thierry accuses politicians of inaction.
Nos élus font en sorte que la population soit plus que rassurée. D'ailleurs, selon les déclarations de notre député, ça ne sert à rien d'affoler la population. De toute façon, on n'a pas de solution.
Soil, air, water, the ultra-toxic and persistent perfluorinated compounds are everywhere. In allotment gardens near the plant, there's a mix of concern and anger. Local residents and associations have launched legal action against Arcema, the first of its kind in France. They want the group to pay for a long-term study of local residents' health and cut toxic discharges immediately.
Arcema produit des PFAS depuis 1957 et il y a eu, selon le rapport de l'IGEDD, 3,5 tonnes de PFAS rejetées dans le Rhône par an. Depuis octobre dernier, suite à un arrêté préfectoral, ils ont commencé à filtrer. Aujourd'hui, on est encore à une dizaine de kilos par mois. Et nous, dans le référé, on demande à ce que ce soit en dessous des 1 kilo.
Arcema declined to comment on the legal proceedings, but said that French and European regulations are among the strictest in the world. At the European level, the REACH regulation that governs the use of chemical substances is due to be revised. But in Brussels, the struggle with the industry is intense.
Une partie des perfluorés ont été interdits par la législation européenne, mais une grande partie, plus de 10 000 substances de la famille, sont encore aujourd'hui autorisées. On a très peu de contrôle en réalité sur l'état des eaux, des sols et sur les riveraines, les riverains qui peuvent être aujourd'hui intoxiqués.
In recent months, 5 European countries have called for a ban on PFAS, a request which is currently being assessed. The battle looks set to be a long and difficult one.
More and more people are taking drugs globally. That's according to a United Nations report which says the number of those who inject stimulants is 18% higher than previously estimated. In Vienna, there's been a significant increase in drug-related deaths.
Ich nehme auch Drogen, ja. Was nimmst du so? Ich bin eingestellt auf Morphium, hier und da am Beikonsum. Es gibt immer mehr Leute, die was Opiate verkaufen oder es nimmt schon überhand, das Ganze, dass immer billiger wird, das Ganze.
Die Neuen, die nachkommen, die unterschätzen das, glaube ich, ein bisschen. Und zwar extrem, also die Jugendlichen, die konsumieren und wissen gar nicht, was sie überhaupt konsumieren.
Nearly 300 million people globally use drugs in 2021, according to the latest UNODC World Drug Report. This figure is 23% higher than the previous 10 years. The most common addictive substance is cannabis, followed by opiates, amphetamines, cocaine and ecstasy. Consequently, there are nearly 40 million cases of people who suffer from drug use disorders. That number has skyrocketed by 45% in the last 10 years. Only 1 in 5 people are in treatment. The good news is that more people can now be reached.
We have seen that actually with the COVID pandemic, many countries have adopted innovative ways in order to reach the drug users with the services. And so this innovation now proved to be really increasing also the number of people that can be reached and even new patients coming to treatment. So that gives a sign of hope.
West- und Mitteleuropa sind nach wie vor einer der größten Kokainmärkte weltweit. Während der Kokainkonsum in der Pandemie stagnierte, scheint er nun wieder anzusteigen. Zudem deuten die jüngsten Trends auf vermehrten Methamphetamingebrauch in Europa hin. Johannes Bleschberger, Euronews, Wien.
796. That's the number of babies and children believed to be buried in a mass grave in Tuam, County Galway, close to the grounds of a former church-run maternity home. The plot was discovered by a local historian. It sparked international uproar and a government inquiry. But almost 1 decade later, the remains have yet to be exhumed. And survivors of this institution and others like it are waiting for answers. Experts say some 90,000 unmarried women were incarcerated in mother and baby homes like this one across the country in the 20th century.
Women ended up in these mother and baby homes and in Magdalen asylums for a myriad of reasons. Many, yes, had had children outside marriage, but many had not. And in fact, the basis on which you could be committed was very, very flimsy and quite wide.
When Ireland gained independence from Britain in 1922, the Irish Republic handed many of these institutions over to the Catholic Church. Upon birth, the women inside were forced to give their children up for adoption and were subjected to unpaid labour, until the last home closed its doors in 1998.
In the sense from the church, it copper-fastened their position and their status and their control. In many cases, they were given the control of buildings in order to carry out this work, but also very early on in the 1920s, and it was developed throughout the period, the state devised a capitation system. So when a young woman, for example, may have a baby outside marriage and she would approach the local authority for assistance, if she was placed in one of these homes, the local authority would pay a capitation for the religious orders to, inverted commas, take care of her.
An independent commission confirmed many babies in these homes did not survive. Some were also used in medical trials without their mother's consent. Despite persistent calls from survivors and the government, the governing institutions have not provided burial records for thousands of missing children.
I think it goes to the heart of what has been one of the most damaging aspects of this historical legacy, and that is the kind of casual carelessness with people's records. And the fact that these people have a right to their records, as everybody does. We have a right to know when we were born, who gave birth to us, you know, what illnesses we had when we were vaccinated. And I think that's a massive source of distress.
Turkish activists defied a ban to stage an annual gay pride march in Istanbul on Sunday. It's 1 month after Turkey's election followed a homophobic, hate-filled campaign. More than 40 protesters were detained, according to demonstration groups. Police had heightened security in and around the iconic Taksim Square, which was the venue of the 2013 anti-government protest. However, Reporters Without Borders criticised the police blockade of journalists at almost every social event around the area.